Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about a topic that kind of comes up a lot in writing community stuff, in a more sort of oblique way, but I want to take it a broader sense, and that's the idea of routines. Um, a common piece of advice you'll hear in a lot of the writing community is have a good writing routine. I personally think it's good to write every day. It seems a little intense for some folks who maybe haven't, they're starting out or something, but I really do think it helps to build that daily writing habit. That will do a lot for your creativity and your productivity, that sort of thing. But I also want to talk about broadly about routines and how they can work for us and how can they not work for us in certain situations. And oddly enough, it comes up quite a bit with my clients. It comes up quite a bit because I found that if someone has no routine, that causes problems. And if people have like too much of a routine, then that causes its own problems. But the idea of routines are that basically we fall into these routine habits on a daily, weekly, monthly, maybe even yearly basis. We really can't help it. All animals, and actually might be a bit much, but I wouldn't even dare to say all living organisms have some sort of routine. If they live on the surface of the earth, then they're bound to follow the routine of the day-night cycle. As long as the earth rotates on its axis and the sun rises and the sun sets and it gets warmer in the day and cooler at night, that alone is going to cause a routine. If you're an organism that can see well at night but not during the day, you're going to follow a certain kind of routine. If you're like humans, you see better during the day and not during at night, then that'll be another kind of routine. When we eat, when we tend to get up, the way we go about our day, we see this with animals all the time. Even in plants, some plants they open and close the pores on their leaves to help them either get more CO2 or retain more water, depending on what it is. So a routine can't be helped. We have to have routines. We will fall into one at any time. Now, of course, what gets some of my clients in problems is the routines become unhealthy. They have nothing else going on in their life, so they, at the end of the day, when they get done off of work, they just sit around, maybe drink, or just play video games, or whatever else. And that becomes their routine, but becomes a routine that's not really that healthy for them in the long run. That tends to cause more problems. Also, my clients who are unemployed. They're retired, they're on disability, sometimes even just like college students between semesters. There's nothing for them to do. They have no reason to get out of bed in the morning. They have no reason to take a shower or get dressed, eat at a particular time, go to bed at a particular time. They can kind of do whatever they want, and that ultimate sense of freedom actually causes more problems. That is a leading cause of depression in a lot of my clients. And so when I have a client who's lost their job, and I've had one recently, that's one of the things that I definitely get on them about is like we need to build some sort of daily schedule to where you now have a routine even though there's no external force making you have a routine. Most of us, our routines are dictated by external forces. We have a job or we have a school that dictates that we have to be at a certain place at a certain time. And so that carves out a chunk of our day. We have to get up at a certain time to get there on time, which means we probably have to go to bed at a certain time in order to get enough sleep. It's probably going to dictate when we eat. We might only get like a lunch break or something like that. And so when you take that structure away, people have to create their own. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. On the flip side is where I have the clients, now a few of these are like this too, where they're too busy. They have too much going on. Particularly people who are working and going to school at the same time. That sucks up a lot of their day. Parents, especially parents of small children, this sucks up a lot of their time. And so almost every moment of their day seems to be filled with this routine that's not under their control, and then that causes depression, causes anxiety, causes stress, and those things cause even other problems as well. And so it's necessary to have some kind of routine. And if you want to be a writer or any really creative person, this takes time. In many ways, writing is the easiest and the cheapest of all the creative pursuits, because all you need is really a computer with a word processor, and you can be a writer. And just about every computer has a word processor. They have since the 80s. It's one of the basic functions of a computer. And so it's very cheap and easy to do this, but it takes time. You have to sit down at your computer and type words to the exclusion of everything else. And if you do that, over a long enough period of time, you will have a completed work, guaranteed. And so with writers, with people who get started off writing, or anyone who's like trying to do any sort of creative pursuit, I always tell them the same thing. You will never find the time. You will have to make the time. You get the same 24 hours in the day as everybody else. You're not going to find any extra time that no one else has ever found. And the world is not going to necessarily just hand you the time. And let's be honest, a lot of times when the world does hand you the time, like my clients who are suddenly unemployed, we tend to kind of fill it with pointless stuff, unless we've already kind of built that routine. And so you have to be willing to make the time, which usually means you have to give up something else. In my case, it was sleep. I decided to go to bed early. Actually, I didn't really give up sleep. I gave up my evening hours. I decided I'm going to go to bed early so I can wake up a little bit earlier, so I can come into my office and get at least an hour's worth of writing done every day before my first client. If I'm lucky, some days I can slip in some more hours. Maybe my first client doesn't start at 9, maybe it starts at 10 or 11, and so I can get a few more hours of writing in there. But I always just build in this routine that I'm going to wake up a little bit earlier so that way I can get a little bit of writing done. And some days that's all I get. I get like a few hundred words written over the course of an hour, and that's that. And other days I knock out like 2,000 words because it's all just flowing and it's really going well. Other things like making these videos. I decide I give up some of my time on the weekends so I can come in and record this and upload it and all that sort of thing. So a lot of this comes down to what are you willing to give up. But on the flip side, the sort of darker edge of routines, there's the when the routine itself becomes part of the problem. I mainly got the idea of doing this video because on Friday I decided just to go on a little road trip. I didn't have any clients scheduled, and I decided I'm just not going to schedule anybody during that day, like emergency visits or anything else like that, because I just wanted to go on a little road trip. Didn't go very far. It's like an hour and a half drive outside of Austin. It's a little town. It's kind of a almost like a touristy spot. It's got some other stuff going on besides just tourism, but it's just a little nice, sort of a hill country town. And the weather was beautiful, and so I decided I'm just going to drive out there. I got up in the morning, I did my hour's worth of writing, got some of that stuff done. And then, I just drove out there, got out of the city for a little while, had lunch, went to all the little antique stores, went to a little bookstore, that sort of thing. And I think I was back by dinner time. It wasn't a really big excursion, but it was still just a break in my routine. This routine of get up, come into the office, write, see clients, do paperwork, notes, go home, go to bed, eat, write, recycle, that sort of thing. It was just enough of a break in the routine that it kind of gave me a nice little, recharge. And now that tomorrow is Monday, I'm ready to kind of get back to it again. Because when we have too much of a routine, that can cause depression. And that's kind of where I was starting to feel as well, was it's just another day of the same thing over and over again. This has definitely been a problem over the past year with the pandemic. A lot of my clients are really starting to feel it. I mean, some of us like myself started to feel it months ago, but even my clients, they're like, we're very concerned about the pandemic and really worried about it and really staying home and not really going out and doing all that sort of stuff. Even now, they're starting to I think once I'm get like the second shot of the vaccine, or maybe when the weather gets warmer or whatever, I'm gonna go and hit some barbecue places around the state or whatever. Everybody has their own little thing, but everybody's basically kind of ready to just be done with it, because this routine of just staying home and doing nothing wears on you after a while, and there's nothing to look forward to, and there's nothing to do, and there's nothing to break up that routine. The other flip side, like I said, is when you're over routined, when you've got too much stuff, too much scheduled. That causes anxiety, that causes depression. It causes stress and anxiety a lot. That can lead to depression. And so the antidote to that, to both of these, is one, build yourself a schedule. And so what I do with my clients when I build a schedule is, first I plug in 8 hours of sleep. So I ask my client, what time do you need to get up in the morning to be able to get ready for your day, to go to school or work or whatever? And then I take that time, let's say they say 7 a.m. I says, okay, well, you want to be in bed by 11 p.m. the night before. That will get you 8 hours. Preferably maybe a little bit earlier or something. And then we just sort of plug in, like, okay, you're going to get up at 7. What's the first thing you're going to do? Well, you want to go, let the dog out. Okay, that's good. Start the coffee, eat breakfast, maybe go for a walk the dog or something. Maybe that's where my clients slip in their meditation. Then we kind of look at the work day. And if they work from home, then I tend to try and break that up, like in a couple of hour chunks or something. But definitely plug in time for work, plug in time for self-care. Plug in time for meals. So I always plug in, time for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because a lot of people will start skipping breakfast. They'll maybe, kind of skip lunch as well. And that's not good for you either. And then plug in time for just, downtime for fun. And, how all this stuff is arranged, like, I lose an hour in the evening, but I gave myself an extra hour in the morning because that's where I do my writing. So, that's how that works. So once you kind of build out that schedule, then it's just a question of just sort of sticking to that schedule. And then, the problem is that once you have that schedule, then it can get kind of dull and boring and repetitive. I can usually tell when it's hitting me, and I think when it's hitting all my clients, is when they start getting kind of depressed. And they just start kind of feeling a little burned out with life, where every day starts to feel like the same, like they're not really doing anything new or interesting, and they don't really have anything to look forward to. That's when you need to break up that routine. You got to do something else. Take a day off from work and just go on a road trip. Go out shopping. Go do something else that you haven't ever done before. Whatever it is you can do to break up that routine. Usually going to someplace new or doing something that you don't normally do is a good way to kind of break up that routine. Like I said, going someplace new doesn't mean, a trip to Europe. It could just mean an hour road trip. It could even just mean going across town to go get something to eat, or go visit that store you haven't been to in a long time, or something else like that. Doing something new could just be, going for a walk around the neighborhood that you've never been around before. It doesn't have to be anything big or major. It can just be something, like I said, just outside your routine. What would you normally do that day? Well, do something different. That's how you break it up. The other flip side of the routine is that some of my clients who don't really have a schedule like that, but they still have a lot to do, I can tell when they are having problems because they are feeling overwhelmed by life. They feel anxious, they feel stressed, they're overwhelmed by everything. They tend to forget stuff, important stuff, because they're trying to keep too much stuff in their head. They start doing things half-assed because they feel rushed. They have trouble falling asleep because all their mind is doing is just rolling around all the stuff that they didn't do that day, or maybe they did do, but did they do it right, or feel like they're forgetting something or whatever. And that's why having that written out schedule is kind of helpful. Usually with a lot of my clients, the hard part in that case is pairing out stuff and just saying, do you really need to do this? Do you need to do this every day? Is this something that you can just do, knock out, and be done with? That sort of thing. Because the more stuff you keep in your skull, the more your skull is kind of full. And so I also recommend, and I do this too, is putting out reminders for things. And that's even just a part of my routine. I have a reminder once a week that tells me make a video. Because to be honest, until my little reminder went off yesterday, I kind of forgot that I needed to make a video for the day. So with the reminder going off, that kind of got me going, and I made time to come out and make this video. And so by not having that in my skull, I don't have to think about it. It's not something I have to remember. It's something that will just sort of keep coming up every week that I can just be reminded of, and I can just act on it when it comes up. So that frees my mind for more important things, more fun things like writing. Like, what new story am I going to write? What plot, do I want to follow? What character do I want to write about? This sort of stuff, which is where I want my mind to be working, not trying to keep up with the minutia of all my little daily and weekly tasks and things like that. So anyway, hopefully this discussion was helpful, but one of the solid things to do as a writer, as a creative of any type, is to start building a daily routine of creating. Even if it's just an hour, even whatever small incremental measurable increments you can come up with is good. Writing for an hour a day like I do, or writing a certain number of words per day, whatever it is, kind of stick to that, and also then kind of track it. And then this, over a long time, will start getting you, where you want to be. But anyway, hope you found this useful, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.